Week 11 of the NFL season, week 12 of college football. Andrew Avery here, and I'm sitting with Ben Fawkes, our insider. Ben, thank you for joining us here. Week 11 NFL action. Where is the public money and the public ticket count going?
Yeah, a whole lot of action certainly to see in Week 11. I think one we've seen a lot is the Miami Dolphins against the Las Vegas Raiders. That line's moved up from about Dolphins minus 10, 10.5, all the way to minus 13.5. A couple books have over 75% of the bets, 80% of the action on the Dolphins. Never a good thing when the public and the wise guys are on the same side. But I think they're seeing the same thing, which is that the Dolphins generally have beaten bad teams, not so great against the good teams. And then the Raiders just played the Giants and the Jets and kind of barely made it past them. So maybe that opening line not really reflective of the difference between those two teams. We've seen that line come up. And then certainly another one, the Dallas Cowboys. Basically anyone wants to fade against the Carolina Panthers, generally a good idea. Cowboys minus 10.5. We've seen over 90% of bets at some sports books on the Cowboys. Public loading up to go on to Dallas. And again, they just blew out a bad Giants team with Tommy DeVito starting. But the Panthers also haven't been very good, even with Bryce Young starting. So we've seen the public back the Cowboys there as well.
We're sitting here on a late Thursday afternoon, so potentially a bit too early. But are you seeing anything for what looks to be the biggest game of the Week 11 slate, the Monday nighter between the Chiefs and the Eagles? Anything of note here, or is it a bit too early?
Yeah, it's a little early. I think we're seeing, depending on the sports book, and some have been at Chiefs minus 3, some at Chiefs minus 2.5. You're going to see a little different kind of ticket count and money. Certainly in some of the East Coast books, one I spoke with, they have a lot of Eagles money. Now they're in Atlantic City, so you would expect that certainly people backing the Eagles. I think as well, just people grabbing and the wise guys grabbing that +3 when it was available. I think we'll probably see that toggle between 2.5 and 3. But it's by far going to be the most bet Monday Night Football game so far this season, probably throughout the whole season, and should be a great game in a Super Bowl rematch.
So in your opinion, if you could look into your crystal ball here, which teams are going to see a lot more action over the weekend and as we get closer to kickoff?
So I think we'll probably continue to see more of that money on the Dolphins. I don't see a ton of people lining up to go and bet the Carolina Panthers unless that number keeps going up. But we saw that last week with the Cowboys. Even when that number got to minus 17, it got to through 17, which is a key number, to 17.5. The public was still backing the Cowboys. So I think that's likely another one. The Lions is one people are lining up to bet. Again, they're a team that's hot right now, and they certainly have been playing well. And then the Chargers, I think that's another one against the Packers. Even on the road, Chargers, a short number. The Packers just have struggled. They're usually a public team, right? The last couple decades, really, with Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, but they just haven't been the same team this year. And bettors don't have a lot of faith in Jordan Love. So I would think those are a couple of the ones the public will continue to bet as we head into the weekend here.
Talk to me about Super Bowl futures real quick. Entering Week 11, are there any teams out there that are the biggest liabilities at sports books?
So this will vary a little bit from book to book. I thought one interesting one at one book was the Pittsburgh Steelers were the highest liability. They're obviously a team, I think, probably predicted to finish either third or fourth in that difficult AFC North before the season. They're one of the highest liabilities at books. And then the Detroit Lions, which you would kind of expect as well, just given kind of how much offseason hype they had. Everyone seemed like they were betting over Lions win total and the Lions to win the NFC North. And then New York Jets. That was a team, again, before with Aaron Rodgers at some longer numbers. And then once Aaron Rodgers got injured, again, they went back to 75-1, 80-1, and higher to win the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers says he's coming back in a couple weeks. I'll believe it when I see it, but there certainly are going to be people piling on potentially to the Jets. If you believe they have a chance to make the playoffs and Aaron Rodgers is coming back in 3 weeks or a month, that's a pretty good number to get for an Aaron Rodgers team entering the postseason.
Let's pivot to college football real quick. And one of the biggest games on the board this weekend is Georgia, Tennessee. What kind of action are we seeing in that one?
Yeah, this one, Georgia, 10.5 point favorite right now in Tennessee. The public is loading up on the back-to-back national champion, which is not surprising when you consider overall their body of work the last couple years. Over 85% of bets at a couple sports books and 85% of the money on the Bulldogs. I think what's interesting, though, is the Bulldogs have struggled against the number this season. They're only 3-6-1, obviously coming off of a couple good games, but public hasn't liked what they've seen from Tennessee recently. And so they've been backing the Bulldogs in this one. I would expect that to continue as well as we approach Saturday.
A real tasty matchup is over in the Pac-12 with Washington at Oregon State. And this one's been interesting sort of all week. Believe it opened with the Huskies as 1.5 point faves. It's hopped the fence now. Oregon State, 2.5 point favorites. What do you make of this one with that line movement?
Yeah, this is what we generally call a classic pros versus Joes game. And the public is all over Washington. Some sports books, 80% of the bets on Washington. But we've seen the line move the other way. Talked to a couple sportsbook managers. They took some sharp action on Oregon State at -1 to get this up to around -2, -2.5 on the Oregon State Beavers. So this is going to be a game. The public is generally going to back the higher ranked team. Washington Huskies have looked good, undefeated, playing for a potential college football playoff berth. But Oregon State also has played well overall and has beaten some good teams. And the Sharps have seen that reflected, as well as the fact that they like Oregon State at home at this short number as well. So we've seen that kind of discrepancy, the public all over the Huskies and the wise guys all over the Beavers. We'll see what happens on Saturday night.
Yeah, and a very, very tough place to go and play and win. Last thing I'll leave you with here, I got to talk a little Iowa football. We've seen some historically low totals in Iowa football games so far this season. Another one not sub 30, but I believe 31.5, 32 against Illinois this weekend. What do you make of that? And is the public going out there and hitting Iowa with their underbets?
Yeah, so the public is generally going to bet what they saw last. And what they saw last was another record or Iowa total, going under. And so odds makers keep setting this low. Iowa has this combination of a bad offense, a very bad offense, and a very good defense, which is basically a great recipe for totals. I believe they're 8-2 to the under so far this season. And they just, again, odds makers keep setting this lower and lower. Iowa State has had multiple totals in the 30s and the low 30s, which is very, very low for a college football game. But the last two that have set a record have both gone under the total. So this was the most bet total at one sportsbook last week. Again, those bettors cashed as they did kneel. It was close. Iowa, knelt out there, had to kneel down inside the 10-yard line to end the game. But the game did stay under. I think bettors will probably still jump on this trend. And again, until they see it go the other way, much like primetime unders in the NFL, they're going to keep cashing those tickets until it doesn't cash.
There you go. Some Week 11 action notes for NFL and Week 12 action notes for college football. Ben Fawkes, thank you so much for joining me here.
Anytime.